Welcome to this week's edition of the Belau Report. I'm Jane Belau. Our guest, Wayne Gannaway, who is the Executive Director of the History Center of Olmsted County. And we welcome you back.
Thank you, Jane. Great to be here.
It's been about a year since you were here, and you have your fall Hootenany, right?
That's right. We're getting really excited about having our third annual Hootenany at the History Center.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. First, I want you to introduce yourself to our viewers and voters. It's that time of year. But would you tell them where you came from? Because that's a very interesting story.
Sure. Yeah, I have been at the History Center since 2019. And prior to that, I was at Thomas Jefferson's Poplar Forest, which is a historic plantation site that was owned by the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, and it's also where he had his private retreat.
Sort of like a Camp David.
That's right. It was very much like a Camp David. Yeah, his home was at Monticello, but he wanted to get away from there because he had groupies, believe it or not. One of the founding fathers had groupies. They would come to Monticello to see the author of and the signer of the Declaration of American Independence, and they would look through the windows at him as he was trying to eat his breakfast, and one actually broke a window. So he said enough of that and decided he needed a private retreat house. He owned some land that was near Lynchburg, Virginia, so he built his private retreat house. And I had the honor of working there for 7 years.
That was great, I bet.
It was awesome.
And how much of that are you using here in Olmsted County?
Well, you know what? Olmsted County's got some pretty famous people and places as well. Obviously, Mayo Clinic has some really, really important people. And so I like to use what I learned about telling the stories of famous people, what I learned at Poplar Forest with Thomas Jefferson, and bringing it to the story of Dr. Charlie and Dr. Will.
Good. And you have recently done a very interesting agreement with the Rochester Art Center. Tell our viewers about that.
Yeah, it's really exciting, Jane. We really admire the Rochester Art Center. We think they're doing a terrific job, and we are good friends with the great people at the Art Center. So we decided with the Art Center to have a reciprocal membership agreement so that people who are members of the History Center at the household membership level can get free admission to the Rochester Art Center, and people who are members of the duo level at the Rochester Art Center can get free admission at the History Center. So 2 great museums for the price of 1.
Great. And how's it going?
Well, we just kicked it off last month.
Okay, so you're just starting.
Just starting. In fact, this may be the very first news outlet that I've shared that with.
Good. We like that. Okay, now your Hootenany, tell us what that is.
Well, the Hootenany, Jane, is an opportunity for residents of Rochester and Olmsted County to get to know the History Center a little bit better. So it's where we have really great musicians from folk, bluegrass, or Americana play at the History Center in front of the historic Stoppel Barn. So what better place to listen to bluegrass or Americana than under the eaves of a barn that was built in the 1870s?
Oh,
Yes, it's a wonderful atmosphere to enjoy music outdoors in the fresh air. And you can also tour the barn, you can tour the cave, learn from volunteers who will tell you information about their history, and also enjoy some great food from Forager, who will be serving food and beer at the Hootenany. So it's a great time.
and the public is invited.
Yes, the public is welcome. We have plenty of room. It's a big open space. It's a really good deal. For members of the History Center, it's only $10, $15 general admission. And before the Hootenany, on the same day, Saturday, September 17th, the Drifters Car Club will be showcasing their really awesome historic cars. So come to the History Center all day. You can check out the really awesome historic cars and antique cars. And then at 4 o'clock, come to the Hootenany and listen to some great music from a really awesome Americana band. The Pistol Packin' Party Penguins are going to be playing. Say that 5 times, or even 3.
So they're going to play the whole time?
They're going to play from 4 to 6, yep.
Okay. And you're going to have hors d'oeuvres?
Yeah, we'll have hors d'oeuvres. Forager Brewery will be bringing food. We may have another food vendor as well, so people can purchase some really delectable treats and enjoy the music, enjoy the open blue sky, and tour the cave, tour the barn, and also, Jane, get an update on the restoration of the smokehouse, which will be happening at that time.
Good. You've had very good luck since you were talking about all these things that had to be done, and now you've got some money to do it with.
That's right, yep. Thanks to our donors and the state of Minnesota's Legacy Grant.
Yep. So just to remember where you learned about those.
That's right, Jane. I always will.
All right. Tell me some of the other things the History Center does during the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's important to remember that one of the most important parts of the History Center is our archives. And we have people from Rochester, Olmsted County, and in fact, all over the United States come visit us in our archives because people want to learn about their families, learn about the history of their farms maybe that they grew up on, and the archives is a place to go. You know, we are the only place in town that has a certified archivist that gives you one-on-one assistance with your research needs. You might be able to find records online, you might be able to find them at other places in town, but you will not get that person-to-person service from a certified archivist. And we are so proud to offer that service.
Good. That's good. And that's for people off the street
People
or
off the street.
members?
Well, members can come into the archives for free. And non-members, there is a small admission, and there's no charge for browsing our reference library, and there is a small charge for research assistance.
And what's in your reference library?
Oh, we've got lots of great books. People forget all of the really interesting historical information in books. So for example, I learned in one of our reference library books that Mark Twain actually came to Winona, Minnesota on a speaking tour in 1885. And I
did?
learned that from one of our reference libraries.
What did he do here?
He was giving a tour, a lecture talk. He was there with one of his compadres, George Cable, and they were talking about the events of the day, and Twain was probably making fun of politicians. But so these are the pieces of historical information that are really interesting, that tell us about the character of our past that we may not have been aware of.
That's good. Any more stories like that?
Well, the other thing you can learn, and this you can go to our exhibits actually, and you can learn that Susan B. Anthony actually came here to give a talk on women's suffrage, and she came here in the 1870s on Christmas Eve Day and gave a talk. Yep. We have lots of people who come in to try and make that connection with their past. Jane, I remember we were talking about veterans before we got on the air. We had a young soldier, this is a couple of years ago now, who called us or emailed our archivist and told her that she had a picture of her great-grandfather during World War I. He was in his doughboy uniform, and he was standing on a bridge in Rochester. And she wanted to know what the name of that bridge was, because she wanted to make that connection with her veteran great-grandfather. And we were able to help her identify what the name of that bridge was. She came to Rochester, went on that bridge, and in her battle dress uniform, her camos, she had her picture taken, perhaps at the very same spot of her great-grandfather. Now, that really was important to her because it gave her confidence as a soldier, as a young woman in the United States Army. And I am so proud that we were able to help her with that.
And did you do a story for the local newspaper about that?
No, that one we didn't. In fact, this is another breaking news item here, Jane, that we're doing right now.
Okay. And what else do you have to tell our viewers about your services there?
Yes, well, the other services that we have are our changing exhibits. So we will be doing a major overhaul of our exhibits next year, but they can come out and see some of our really terrific exhibits.
What are you showing?
Right now, we are finishing up the women's suffrage exhibit. That will be ending this year. So if you haven't seen the women's suffrage exhibit, it's definitely one to see before it goes. We also have a really awesome exhibit on flooding in Olmsted County. On a day like today, the Zumbro River looks very tame, but that wasn't always the case.
Oh,
and so you can see the impact of living around water. And we have other terrific exhibits about the Mayo Clinic, about the construction or the carpentry industry in Rochester, and a bunch of other really cool exhibits.
And you'll be changing that at the end of the year?
That's right. We're going to be changing it at the end of the year.
Okay.
And Jane, if I may, also be on the lookout for our Creepy Doll contest and exhibit. That's going to be on display October 1st.
And tell us about that.
Well, the Creepy Doll contest was started 4 years ago, and it has, believe it or not, Jane, has swept the country and possibly the whole entire globe. And people are intrigued by these dolls. Jane, these dolls are from our collections. And over a period of time, they kind of lose their brand new sheen, you know, that brand new look. And over 100 years, sometimes they look creepy. So people are intrigued by that, and so we have them on exhibit at the History Center beginning on October 1st.
And that runs until Halloween, right?
Yep, that will run until Halloween. And the theme this year is going to be cult classic movies.
Really?
Yes, so each doll will have its own cult classic movie. So it'll be fun to come to the exhibit and see how we pull this off.
How are you showing those movies?
Well, no, because we don't own the copyright to them, but we do take the artwork or borrow some of the artwork that embodies those movies, and we put the dolls, inside that artwork.
Oh my.
Yes.
Okay, what else?
Well, the other thing that's breaking news, Jane, I want to share with you, we received a federal grant from the Institute for Museum and Library Services to do interpretive planning for the historic Stoppel farmstead. So that means we have federal funding to basically figure out what stories do we want to tell at the Stoppel farmstead and how will we tell them. And so this funding from the federal government will allow us to do that.
Are you hiring people to work on that?
We will be using our own staff and then also hiring some consultants from Minnesota.
Okay. And so are you looking for consultants?
We have one already chosen. We will be looking for community members to talk with, both folks who come from a farming background and who still live on a farm, and also from people who are interested in growing their own food, and immigrants too, because don't forget, George Stoppel and his brother, Joseph, were immigrants. They were German immigrants. So we want to talk to immigrants of today to help them come up with our interpretive plan.
So how do they get in on this?
Well, they can call the History Center and ask to talk with me,
Okay.
and then we'll get them signed up to participate.
Good. Good. Okay, what else?
Well, that's those are the main things that we're doing. Oh, Christmas at Mayowood, a favorite. And we're really excited this year. The theme is going to be Christmas stories. So each room of the Mayowood historic home will be decorated to a particular Christmas story. So pick a Christmas story. Trying to think of one. How about The Night Before Christmas? That will be the theme of one of the rooms and will be decorated to the story of The Night Before Christmas.
Good.
So very exciting. People love the Christmas at Mayowood.
And when does that start?
That will start at the beginning of November.
Okay. November and December then.
That's right. It'll run through December.
Okay. All right. And there must be some more.
Well, that's all I can think of at the moment, but there's always something interesting going on. We do have talks, interesting historical talks coming up. So folks should come to our website, olmstedhistory.com, and look under our events, and they can see all of the listings that we have.
Well, tell me about some of the talks.
Well, let's see. One of the talks is about modern architecture in Rochester. And by modern architecture, I mean the post-World War II architectural fashion.
Okay.
And there's some fascinating homes and businesses in Rochester. So we have a expert on that who will be talking about that. We have a talk by a author who has put out a new book about Rochester history. Actually, there's a couple new books out, and people can read about those books in our newsletter and can get a bit of a book review on those new books. So if you're a member, when you get this in the mail, check it out, and you
Okay.
can learn the latest about new books about Rochester history.
I think we'll go back to the Hootenany because that's the reason that we picked this time for your interview. And that's on Saturday or Sunday?
That is a Saturday, September 17th from 4 to 6 p.m.
Okay. And the band?
Hold on. The Pistol Whippin' Party Penguins. The Pistol Whippin' Party Penguins. They have a big following. They come out of the Twin Cities, but they're well known down here in Rochester too.
And there's going to be a car club exhibit?
That's right. The Drifters Car Club, one of our good partners and friends, will be displaying antique cars all day at the History Center grounds prior to the Hootenany.
Okay. And the Hootenany is going to be all American music?
Yep, Americana music, kind of a folksy bluegrass kind of sound to it.
And Forager will be your caterer?
Yep, that's right. Forager will be serving some of their delicious foods, as well as some of their delicious beer.
So tell us why people should belong to the History Center.
Well, that's a great question, Jane. I think people should belong to the History Center because the more that they are connected to the history of their community, the more that they will understand their community and become better citizens. And you and I have talked about this before, and I truly believe that the more people know the history of their community, state, and nation, the better citizens they become. And what better way to know your history than to become a member of your only history museum in Olmsted County? And so that's really a great reason. Plus, you get free access to the museum, discounted access, admissions to events like the Hootenany. You get this free newsletter, quarterly newsletter, and now you actually get to, if you're a household member at the History Center, you can get admission to the Rochester Art Center.
Okay. And that is at the Civic Center, right?
That's right, at the Civic Center.
Okay. And you're doing something too to protect the bequests that the History Center gets in terms of old things. And what is that?
Yes, well, of course, our main mission is to collect, preserve, and educate about Olmsted County's material culture. That is, the things that the people in the past, whether they're dolls, creepy dolls, whether they're pieces of farm equipment, all those things that all of the people who came before us here in Olmsted County, that they created we collect those and we preserve them so that our descendants can then look at that piece of farm equipment and learn about who came before them. And it's the same with photographs. So people can look at old photographs and learn about what the world was like 100 years ago. And that then informs them about what the world is like today and can be like tomorrow.
That's a very important thing.
It is.
Okay, we're down to our last 3 minutes.
Okay.
And we want to give you a chance to speak to our viewers and tell them whatever you'd like.
Okay. And which?
There, right here.
Okay. Yeah. Once again, Jane, thank you. And I'm always pleased to be on the show. And it has been my honor to be the executive director of your History Center of Olmsted County. And I welcome any of the viewers to stop by the History Center and come visit, come see me. I'd love to talk to you about what we have going on, all of the ways that we benefit, not just our members, but all citizens of Olmsted County. And also invite all of the viewers to participate in the History Center by attending an event, coming and seeing exhibits, or doing research in the archives and library. And if you like what you see, then become a member and be a part of this exciting journey as we move forward into Olmsted County's exciting future. Because once again, best way to map out a successful future is by really understanding our past.
Okay, Wayne Gannaway, Executive Director of the Rochester Historical Society of Olmsted County. And we thank you for taking your time talking about the Hootenany coming up, I think this weekend. The
Next weekend.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, but that's when we're running the
Yes,
program.
that's right. Thank you.
All right, on the 17th of September.
That's right.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, our viewers, for your interest in history and Olmsted County and the state and the world. And thank you. We'll be with you again next week, same time, same channel. In the meantime, have a very good week and a very good night.